Put down your baby and pick up a beer. Or maybe a Moscow Mule. Or maybe some tea, some water, Gatorade, I don't know, coffee. Depends on what time of the day it is, Brandon. Right now, I'm drinking a Body Armor, but I see you over there drinking a Moscow Mule. So that's the difference between our 2 days, I think, and where we're at in our day.
A Body Armor.
Well, they're good for breastfeeding moms. That's what I have.
Exactly. I'm about to say, Kelsey, I've never seen Body Armor anywhere other than a gas station. But Kelsey now has, we stay with a 24-pack of that thick.
Oh, I just went to Sam's yesterday.
Thick Body Armor, which is, I'm gonna hold off on my opinion until we figure out if we're getting sponsored by Body Armor now.
Well, I'm not a huge fan, but we went to Sam's yesterday. It was a little family trip. The first time we all went out together. We took Peyton. She's actually a little angel. We drove the Nuna around. And we got a bunch of stuff, a lot of it really good. I actually helped out pick the groceries, which made me excited. But you know what? We didn't get anything to drink. And then I came home and I was like, we have nothing in this house to drink other than water, and we have some milk left. And I know me and you go back and forth on if it's normal to drink milk or not, but I actually do like to drink some milk. So we have Body Armors because Macy gets them for for breastfeeding, so that is why I have a Body Armor. But you have a Moscow Mule, so you're having a better day than me. I'm taking it.
Moscow Mule, I got it in the proper cup. We sitting here. I was preparing for the episode, sipping a little bit, and so I'm feeling good right now, Jerry.
I like it. Yeah, today's episode is everyone's favorite topic, and that is crying. We're going to talk a little bit about...
Which is something that Wisconsin basketball coaches do.
It is, yeah. We just watched that game. They did a little bit of crying there. Any Wisconsin fans out there, or Packer fans, or Cheeseheads, no hard feelings, but that was an interesting basketball game to say the least. But yeah, crying. We're going to talk about what to do, what's different types, and how to deal with it, because everyone's going to tell you if you're about to be a parent, or if you are a parent, babies cry. You're going to have to deal with the crying. You can't sleep. But, when you go through it, you do notice some things that you wish maybe you knew ahead of time, or some things that you're just going to have to learn on the go. So we'll go over those today. But before we do all that, Brandon, as always, we have a dad joke for you. Are you ready for the dad joke? You seem to be thinking you're winning lately. I don't know about that. I listened back to a couple episodes, and I seem to still think that I edge you out.
Well, you thought wrong, but I am still waiting with bated breath.
All right, Brandon, I got one for you. Why can't you send a duck to space?
Why can't you send a duck to space? Quack is going to be a part of it somehow.
No, actually, it's just because the bill would be astronomical.
That's fair. That's more clever than funny.
It's clever because, one, it would be expensive bill, and it's got a bill, and it's astronomical, like space, astro. So I thought it was clever on two fronts. Double points.
I probably would have gone with platypus personally, but it's fine.
Platypus. I like it. One of my nephew's favorite word for a couple months was platypus. He called everything that, so I don't know why.
I mean, that's what kids do. You learn something new and you got to tell everybody else about it. I was really big into dinosaurs as a kid.
Oh, yes. My one nephew's huge into dinosaurs right now, and they have these cool things, which we might have to get Bryce later on. They're eggs, and you heat them in water, and then they hatch, and there's little plastic dinosaurs inside, and then they have to say what they are, what kind they are. And he knows them all, the crazy
Skip
names.
Getting that for Bryce. Get that for me.
They're pretty cool. My brother and my nephew were doing that on Christmas. He got it for a Christmas gift. It was pretty cool, and he was geeked about them. And he knew way more about dinosaurs than even I do. So that's pretty awesome.
I was that kid. I forgot all the information, but I forgot I was that kid.
Well, I will tell you this. Macy already told me this week. You talk about things wives have say. She told me this week, I think as of right now, and there's a long time because our baby's not even 3 months yet, but she said for Peyton's first birthday, we're going to do a girl dino birthday. So I think that's what we might be doing. So you might see a lot of pink and purple dinosaurs or something.
Let's get it.
I like it. So, Brandon, what's been going on with you? What's been going on in the Banks household?
The first part of the week was amazing. Bryce was sleeping 7 hours a night, and it was one wake up, pretty regular. The last 2 days, and this is the first time I've ever felt that the app, what is that, the name of that app that we use? I'm having a brain fart right now.
Napper?
But no, not the Napper app. The Wonder Weeks app. Sorry, had to pull my phone out really quick. That has been they give you a little leeway where it's hey, it could be within a couple of days. No. They said, hey, he's starting this leap this day. It happened to be 2 days ago or 2 nights ago. Yeah, when that started, he literally to the day started like waking up like every other hour on the hour at night, and it coincided. So maybe it's not the app, maybe it's my fault, but my wife and I switched sides of the bed because we had his crib pulled up basically to the bed, so pacifier falls out or anything like that, we can just like quickly soothe him. He goes right back to sleep. It helps everyone's quality of life. That also coincided with me switching sides, so like over to his side. So maybe it's just the fact that I'm worse at soothing him than my wife is. I don't know, but ever since we did that, I've been he's been sleeping worse throughout the night. So I've been up a little bit more than I normally am. But overall, I mean, I cannot complain. The kid is like overly happy throughout the day. It's and I had yesterday and today off, which is a blessing in our industry, and it's been fun hanging out with them the last couple of days, kind of full time. We had a couple friends over yesterday, and typically around like the 6-month time frame, kids get what they call like stranger anxiety. They start recognizing faces. They know who's familiar, who isn't, and luckily that has not hit yet, or it won't. We're not sure. Because he was great for him. And I think even when we all get together at times, it's almost like he's showing out. He's pretty chill around other people. But other than that, it's been a solid week. Naps are a bit of a struggle. He takes a bunch of cat naps, doesn't take like the recommended 2 to 3 full naps, which that also brings me to something else, Jerry. Like, I feel like we get like these, if you go like research anything to do with a baby, you get like, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. This is how you know your kid's doing what they need to. I feel like none of that ever happens how they say it does in the book. Like, he's supposed to be taking like 2 to 3 like couple hour long naps solo. Nah, yeah, that ain't happening.
That ain't my daughter.
he took like an hour and a half, 2 hour nap with me today, but I was holding him. Like, yep. But I don't know. So for all the dads and moms out there listening, the books, you come to the Dad Jokes podcast for the real. The books aren't always going to tell you what's really happening. But how was you guys' week?
It was a big one, an interesting one.
Hey, I like that.
Well, some good, some bad. But the big thing is Macy went back to work. So I had Peyton solo dolo, and it was good. She actually did really good her first night with me. Was a little bit of a fight putting her to bed. I got her to sleep an hour without contact. Then the rest of the night was with contact, but she only woke up once for a bottle in the middle of the night. So it was really solid. The morning was a little bit tougher. She was cranky, and trying to figure out how to get ready and shower and whatnot was a little bit of a hassle. But that went fairly well. And then we got kind of lucky. Later in the week, like Macy was supposed to work Friday, and she got mandated off. So we've actually been able to spend some time Friday night and then this weekend together, and which has been good. Now she's still not napping well. Again, without contact, she just struggles to nap without contact. She actually struggles to nap with contact. She's not a good napper. She's spitting up a lot more this week. We're continuing to try different bottles to see if that helps, but I think she just might have reflux. We go to the doctor again this week, which is a big doctor's appointment. She turns 3 months this week, and we're going to see if maybe she's gained some of the weight we've been trying desperately to get her to gain, and then we might bring up the spitting up and seeing if they maybe prescribe or something for the reflux or something like that, because she's just been spitting up a ton the last week or two, and it seems like after she eats, she just does. So that's been exciting. She's definitely been more active lately, reaching for things, wanting to have attention paid to her. She's very observant. One of the funny things is because she's obviously a colicky child, sometimes when she gets upset, if you stand up and kind of like let her look over your shoulder, she calms down. She just but if you sit down, starts screaming her head off. But if you stand up and walk around, she'll calm down. She sometimes just needs to look around. She wants to be standing.
How does she react to seeing herself like in a mirror?
She does not care. I keep trying to, because we have
Bryce is just conceited.
Yeah, you kept saying that. So we have a little mirror that we got from the Love Every kit. We also have one on our piano play mat, and I keep trying to get her to be fascinated by the mirror. I even hold her in front of the bathroom mirror sometimes. She don't care. She does not care about that. She's starting to care more about rattles and lights and stuff. She's fascinated by lights and fans, but the mirror, it's not a big thing. Another move we did this week is we moved the pack and play into the room, and we've kind of gotten rid of the bassinet. It's just a little more space, so if we put her in the kind of the sleep suit that we're using, the Magic Merlin one, that gives her more space.
Yeah.
It's. I wish it was working a little bit better. It works for like a short period of time, but then she just gets cranky again. But like I said, it was an eventful week. She's we're waiting. She's getting 3 months. A lot of times they say around 3 months, sometimes 4 months, babies kind of start to turn a corner as far as crankiness. So we're hoping that kind of happens. But like I said, the good times are definitely really good right now. She's definitely smiley in the morning, likes to play, likes to laugh, but she definitely has cranky periods. And I think a lot of it has to do with not being a good napper. To be honest with you, you can tell she's tired and she doesn't like to nap without contact, and even with contact, a lot of times she doesn't like to nap. So I tried to get her to nap right before I came down here, and it wasn't working so well. So we'll see. But a big week, an exciting week, and we continue to learn.
Yeah, and the number one, I guess, times that Bryce is more fussy than I is when he's definitely tired. So I can't imagine like the consistency of not being able to nap. But before we continue, we can see each other. Our audience can't. And I caught a glimpse of the hoodie that you have on.
Yeah.
What is that? What does that say around the front?
So my hoodie I'm wearing right now was a gift from some of my
I didn't see
employees.
the bottom. I just saw the top line.
It was a gift from some of my employees this Christmas. They got me a couple of things, but this is one of them. I think you might have got a hoodie too, Brandon.
I did get a hoodie.
So they got me a hoodie, and they got some of the managers' hoodies, all of which had little sayings on them that reminded them of their manager. And mine says, "I'm never wrong." And then underneath in parentheses says, "Check my spreadsheets," because I'm known for having lots of spreadsheets and lots of data, and I'm also known for admittedly never saying that I'm wrong. That's just not completely true, but I do tend to like to be right. And,
I've heard you say you're wrong at least twice in the
exactly.
8 years that we've known each other. Actually, it's been about 10
years
now.
Than that. Yeah, I was gonna say, it's been longer than that. We're going on a decade, Brandon.
Math. It's hard. I should
exactly.
plug that into a
spreadsheet.
Exactly.
Brandon, I did want to hit you with one piece of baby gear. We talk about baby gear sometimes, and I got a very easy, simple, not complex like we sometimes get into, or the new age one. This is a old school, just baby toy that right now is Peyton's favorite toy. I think Bryce had this exact same toy, and it is the Manhattan Toy Winkle Rattle and Sensory Teether toy. I'm going to show you it, Brandon, so you know what I'm talking about. It's basically like a little die with a ton of little tubes coming out around it, and it rattles, and the babies can kind of grab onto it. It's a lot of different colors, and Peyton right now loves that toy. That's her favorite toy. She likes to play with it, move it around, follow it. So, and it's $9. So if you guys are looking for an easy baby toy for the first few months, that's my recommendation. Amazon, $9. It's 5-star review out of 26,000 reviews. So apparently I'm not the only one who likes it, Brandon.
And I'm glad you showed me the picture, because once you start saying the name, I'm like, do I have that? I don't have no idea what that is. But, I mean, that is what we've gotten into, basically, is he loves to just grab certain things. And that particular toy has a bunch of different handles on it that you can grab kind of from any angle. That was like his first favorite thing, or one of the first, to kind of grab and rattle around. He still uses it all the time, actually.
That's probably her first favorite toy, too. She hasn't really cared about stuffed animals yet. We have a couple of little maracas that came with her piano playmat that she kind of likes, but that's definitely her favorite. She plays with that one the most, and sometimes can just entertain herself for like 10, 20 minutes, which is nice. She's very handsy. She's a very handsy baby, and when she like is either really excited or upset, she like rubs her hands together like she's plotting something.
Bryce had a phase of that too. I don't know. It's gonna, good luck to you in the future if she's handsy, because that might equate to pulling the pacifier out and just throwing it halfway across.
Oh, she does that already. She already does that. She like smacks it out of her mouth, And then she does this thing that drives me insane. I don't know if all babies do this, Brandon, but I'll put the pacifier in her mouth, which everyone knows keeping a pacifier in a baby's mouth is almost impossible. But the trick usually is you hold them against your body, keep the pacifier in there, and they're good. Well, she does this thing where she needs to whip her head back and forth as far as she can to both sides for no reason whatsoever. Even if she's like sleeping, she does this, and it drives me insane because you like can't keep the pacifier in her mouth. And then she gets upset because it fell out. And it's like, well, yeah, but you'd moved your head around like an owl, and we don't know what the heck's going on. So I don't know why
she's
she
just a little Willow Smith. And just whips her hair back and forth.
Whips her hair back and forth. Nice.
Dad, is that like a pre-dad joke? Dad joke? That was pretty good.
Not too bad.
I mean, you kind of mentioned pacifiers, and last night I actually had like, I'm not gonna lie, I was frustrated. I was tired. I fell asleep. I was so tired. I felt like NBA All-Star Saturday night, one of my favorite nights of the year. Like in watching TV, it's normally entertaining. Unless you have like the weakest slam dunk contest ever known to man.
Yeah, I heard about that.
That's what it was last night. But I'm on the couch watching it, and I fell asleep like multiple times. And I used to make fun of my dad because he could not, like, if it was after 9 o'clock, it felt like, once I was like older in the house, we started watching something, and this dude fell asleep every night watching a show, watching a game. He could not stay up. And I found myself getting tired. Like, we put Bryce to bed yesterday at like 8 o'clock, which is a little bit past his bedtime, but he took a longer nap. And I'm like laying down there, like we're like singing him to sleep and stuff. And I'm like, man, it's 8 o'clock. Like, and I'm the guy that's known for like staying up to like at least 1 o'clock in the morning. It's like a normal bedtime. I don't know if that's something to be proud of or not. But it's 8 o'clock, and I'm like, yo, what is going on? I'm tired. Whatever. Went downstairs, started watching the All-Star festivities, and I fell asleep like 3 or 4 times in the middle of like these competitions that I was actually interested in. So ultimately, I'm tired. I come back upstairs, and Bryce, after about 45 minutes of me being in the bed, starts kind of moving and whining, and he's like taking his pacifier out, grabbing it, and just holding it for a second. He's asleep while he's doing this, mind you. Holding it for like a half second, and then just dropping it. And then, like clockwork, every single time you wait like 10 seconds, you start hearing him cry. So I grab the pacifier, I put it in his mouth, and then I like maneuver my hand where he can grip he can put his hand on my arm. I'm like holding like his chest, and ultimately I'm just trying to soothe him so he can go to sleep. And he is literally fighting my arm. Like, I'm not a small guy. This little kid is strong. He is fighting my arm, trying to get his hand back to his mouth. And I know the only purpose is to like get the pacifier out or just do something. And I've never been more annoyed with the little human than I was. I'm doing this for your own good, bro. And the kid is strong. You've seen him, Jerry. That's Senior Thickums. He was fighting me last night.
That's funny. So you mentioned Dr. Brown's in there, and you know how much I have an issue with their bottles. But here's one thing I'll give them credit for. Talking about baby gear, we ordered some bottles, and a pacifier came with it, and that might be Peyton's favorite pacifier. What? Dr. Brown's pacifier.
I feel like we never got a Dr. Brown's.
It came with the thing. I didn't even know they made them, but it's probably her favorite one, the one that she keeps in her mouth the longest period of time. So, for whatever.
My wife's going to listen to this and be like, "Yep, all of our pacifiers are Dr. Brown's pacifiers, you idiot." And I'm going to hear about it in the next couple of days. I'll ask as soon as I get downstairs.
Yeah, so that's been her favorite so far. She's not that picky with pacifiers, but that one seems to be the best. So I don't know, for whatever that's worth. But that's funny that pacifiers drive me nuts because they work, but that's why they're so annoying, because they kind of work. And then the babies just don't want to. And the babies don't want to use them. They're like, nope, I'm going to throw this out. I'm going to knock it out of my mouth. I'm going to drop it into the dog-infested carpet. So I got to have 700 of them in my house.
Oh, exactly. There were 3 pacifiers in his in his bassinet yesterday.
Yeah. At one point in time, we had like 5.
I don't blame you. For us, his gear of the week is the Skip Hop Explore and More 3-stage activity center, which is a mouthful. Basically, what we were doing, he's had this since birth. with kind of these activity centers where the babies can stand up and like kind of work themselves around, it twists around. There's a bunch of different activities that if he's able to twist his body, he can see. The big thing for babies is they want to wait until they can put their feet flat on like the base, so that it basically helps with their hips. If you put them in there prematurely, you can potentially, this is not like a guarantee because I know plenty of people who do it, but you can potentially have some hip issues down the line if you put your baby in there prematurely. So we were pretty conscious of that and waiting until he could put his feet flat on the base. But I mean, he loves that thing. And we talked in previous episodes about just being able to buy like that 10 to 15 minutes. This thing will buy you like 15 to 20 to 25 potentially. And so he kind of uses it. He spins himself around. He has different activities depending on where he is on the activity center. He does, even though he can put his feet flat, he does kind of lean forward a little bit, which isn't great for his posture. So we personally use a rolled up blanket to help kind of enforce some good posture with it. And we put it inside the actual like seat area. So you almost can't see it when he's in it, but it's something that between that and him being able to put his feet flat on the base, he should be good, and he has a good time playing with it.
Nice. Yeah, I think we have one similar to that. I don't know if it's the exact one, but obviously Peyton's a little bit a ways away from that. But, you know, like you said, those 10, 15-minute things, those are huge. If you can
Clutch.
get that or any more, it's a huge win. So, but Brandon, let's get into today's topic. Today's topic is crying, and kind of everyone knows newborns cry. That's what they do. And I don't care if you got the friend or your cousin and they said, "Oh, my baby never cried." BS.
I like how you said cousin there. Your cousin.
Cousin. But the point is, like, all these people, you know, that everyone gets some kind of great illusion that there's this perfect child out there. Babies cry. Toddlers cry. That's what happens. Some more than others. And, you know, obviously it can be quite a bit more, which is kind of leads into the colic, which we'll get into. But babies do cry. And knowing how to cope with that can be very important, especially early on. And if you haven't been around a baby. Because I'll be honest with you, Brandon, personally, and I'm not the most patient person in the world, but I've been around lots of kids, and I've been around lots of babies. And when babies scream or cry, it actually does not bother me, usually when someone else is. Like, some people are really annoyed by it. It's never really bothered me. I've sat in the car with nieces and nephews that have screamed nonstop for hours. It does not bug me. To be honest with you, when Peyton screams in Macy's arms most of the time, it does not bug me. But for whatever reason, when I'm holding her and she's screaming in my face, and it's only been 3 or 4 minutes, it will drive me insane. Because there's something different when you're the one holding them or trying to get them to calm down and they can't. So knowing how to cope with that is huge. I don't know, did you have some of those experiences early on where you're like, wow, this is bugging me way more than I thought it would?
So I was known for saying, while she was pregnant, I'm not worried about crying. I got hundreds of dollars worth of noise canceling headphones in my house. I'll put those on, and the baby can cry away. They'll figure it out. Like, it is what it is. And I mean, you could not have said it better. It's even when, and it does still bother me a little bit when, like, it's if it's just in the house and you kind of know it's your kid. But there's also there's Meek Mill said there's level to this blank. There's level to this crying stuff too. Like, some cries are just different than others, and
they are.
When you are holding your kid, and the problem typically comes with, like, I mean, you love this thing that you're holding, mm-hmm. And it's like, you know that you fed them, you know that they've recently woken up in some cases, you know they recently peed or pooped. It's like you looking at it like, yo, I know something's wrong with you. Why? Like, you can't communicate, which is hard as dads and as moms too. It's like you have like this feeling of just you want to be able to fix things. I think that's I'm not trying to make it like a male versus female thing, but I do think that typically isn't like a male trait. Like, you see something wrong, let me just fix it. Like, if I can fix it right now, we're good. Everybody's happy. I did my job. And you see this baby that you're holding crying, and you can't get quickly to a solution, and you're doing everything you can. I mean, it sucks, and you got to figure it out. But sometimes you also just have to understand that it's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said early on, especially in the first few weeks, you check. Okay, is the baby hungry? She just ate. He just ate. Okay, is the diaper dirty? I changed the diaper. Okay, are they too hot or too cold? No, they're good temperature. Do they need to be rocked? Do they need to, and you go through all these things, and at some point in time, you're like, I've done the whole checklist. What's going on? Sometimes there's nothing going on. And then early on, you start freaking out. You might go, okay, is the baby sick? Is the baby got a temperature? And, that can be frustrating. And then as it gets later on and you start to realize sometimes that the babies just cry, that's when it gets more frustrating. Because then sometimes okay, now you're just crying to cry and you're trying to do everything you can to stop it. And like one day you might find something that works. You might go, you know what? I held them this way today and it worked. That's great. So the next time they start crying, you're like, oh, I got this. I'm going to hold them this way and it's going to work. Nope, doesn't work.
Wrong.
You're back to squares here. That's the most frustrating thing. It changes constantly. You might figure out something. Like I said this week, Peyton, all of a sudden this week, if I stand up and walk around, sometimes it seems to work, which is annoying because she's getting a little bit heavier and sometimes I just want to sit down, but at least I can kind of do it. But I guarantee you, a day or two is going to go by and that's not going to work. So just so you know that's normal. But what they kind of do, Brandon, is what they recommend. By they, I mean pediatric, associations and pediatricians, is something called the 5 S's. Have you ever heard of the 5 S's before, Brandon?
I have not heard of the 5 S's.
So the 5 S's is something that, like I said, is kind of recommended as like a starting point, I guess, if you will. And basically what the 5 S's stand for is first is swaddle. Second is the side or stomach position. The third is shush. The fourth is swing. And the fifth is suck. And basically those are 5 different ways to help calm a baby. Swaddling, pretty self-explanatory. If you swaddle the baby, babies like to be in tight positions. It can help calm them down. The side or stomach position, sometimes they tell you to hold the baby on its side because that's how it was in the womb. And sometimes it can calm a baby down. Shushing noises, anyone who's a parent knows that the whole shushing noises, that actually is supposed to mimic the sounds of the womb to calm a baby down. Swinging your baby or rocking your baby, helping them to sleep. And then sucking, basically if you get a pacifier or something to suck on, can help. All those 5 things, you go through those motions. That's kind of the starting point anytime your baby's upset. And a lot of times those will help. And sometimes it's different ones at different times, but that's kind of the starting point.
And one thing with the third S that you mentioned, the shushing. Buy you guys a shusher. Like, I've found myself multiple times. This is gonna sound crazy. It might not sound crazy, but like I will be like shushing to get Bryce to go to sleep, and I'll be like putting myself to sleep doing it. Or you just feel like, I don't know if you feel like shushing, singing, all those things. Sometimes you just don't feel like doing it. Like you do this all day. Like, and I'll be tired of I'll like we sing like the Barney song "I Love You" to Bryce. That's
you ever
like
annoy yourself,
like
Brandon? You ever just like be doing it and annoying yourself? Because I do that sometimes. I'm like, I'm annoying myself with this shushing right now.
I am so impressed with Kelsey because I feel like she sings this "I Love You" song all day long, and I'll get and I know sometimes she probably looks at me and is like, Bryce is crying. Why aren't you singing? Because truthfully, singing, and I've been known to be able to sing a time or two. So it probably in theory makes sense for me to do it. I cannot tell you the like annoyance that I have sometimes. Some days are great. Like last night, it wasn't. I'm sitting there I'm just trying to get him to calm down, and I'm singing to him, and I am like literally putting myself to sleep. I feel like I'm getting more and more tired as I'm singing to him, and I just wasn't in a mood. And one, if I heard someone else on this, I'd just be like, yo, just suck it up. Like, you just got to do it. And that's kind of what you have to do. But I did kind of lean over, grab that shusher, turn it on, and it worked. So, parents, this thing isn't that expensive. Buy the shusher. It'll save you a little headache.
Yeah, we have one too. The first S is swaddle, which we did a little bit of swaddling. I know you guys did with Bryce. We had to stop earlier than probably normal because, one, it wasn't working very well for us, and also because she started to kind of roll. She kicks a lot. But one thing we read this week that might be of note is that I've read that if you swaddle your baby a lot when they're younger, it can cause sleep problems down the line. And what I mean is that everyone knows babies have the startle reflex. When you put them down, they startle themselves awake. Well, when you swaddle them, it almost suppresses that instinct. So then, but all it does is it delays it. And some doctors say that when you swaddle them, then when you stop, they get that delay startle reflex later on, so it's harder for them to learn to sleep. So basically what you're doing is not that they're never going to sleep okay, but you kind of delay the process for a little bit longer than babies who aren't swaddled. So take that for what it's worth. And again, in the first few months, if you can swaddle the baby and get some sleep, by all means, you should do it. I'm not telling you not to, but just be aware of that if you don't need to, or maybe if you're just doing it because you think you're supposed to, you might not need to, or you might want to at least look into that.
Yeah, and that's something that we were closely monitoring the swaddle for the same reasons that you ended up stopping swaddle Peyton, and we got to a point where we were in the Magic Merlin for the longest period of time, and it's funny kind of thinking about it that startle reflex was something I used to. People might think I'm nuts, but I used to like play around a little bit because you can kind of pull the baby's arms out and drop them, and they do it, and it was like the funniest thing. It kind of reminded me of the TikTok dance, the whoa, when people would do it, and Bryce would hit the whoa a lot of times when he was when he was with me. But you're right. But for us, like dealing with crying baby, we tried. It felt like with Bryce, putting kind of pressure on his stomach would help. So when they're little, try using a football hold or putting them across your thighs. The main reason for that is like putting pressure on their stomach. But it also could be, if it's not colic, which we'll get into in a second, it could be, or even with colic, it could be they're gassy.
Mm-hmm.
So look, things that come up for both just crying baby as well as colicky baby, like probiotics or gas drops are at-home remedies that you can have. And then Jerry's favorite topic, bottles. They do have quote-unquote anti-colic bottles, which Dr. Brown's is something that we use. They have an anti-colic bottle, which basically is within the bottle there's an anti-colic vent system that is quote-unquote clinically proven to reduce colic. Now, Jerry might beg to differ on that a little bit, but those are a few things that we use as well.
Yeah, and there's multiple anti-colic bottles too. Avent has an anti-colic bottle. Como Tomo, I think, is one that's famous for it, and then Dr.
Andrew Cuomo.
Como Tomo.
Oh, okay. Heard you wrong.
But speaking of colic, basically, for those of you who don't know, colic is defined as basically when a healthy baby cries for a very long period of time for no obvious reason. And the way that John Hopkins defines it, and there's a few different definitions, is basically when a baby cries for more than 3 hours a day, more than 3 days a week, for more than 3 weeks. That's generally when you're diagnosed with colic, if you hit those 3 threes. And pretty much everyone says the same thing, which is that colic hits its peak around 6 weeks and then goes to about 3-4 months. It can go up to a year, but typically around 3-4 months. Interestingly enough, Brandon, is if you look at charts of babies that cry a lot or don't cry a lot or are normal, they all have about the same exact chart. So whether your baby's colicky or not, they all kind of reach that peak at the same time and come down at the same time. And usually, like I said, 3 to 4 months is kind of the end of that peak, and when they start to go back down to like fewer hours crying, fewer times crying for no reason. Peyton is about 3 months. She's still in that time period. And kind of what we've experienced is, and the reason we kind of thought she was colicky is she would, cry little periods of time, like all babies do. She'd maybe be tired, hungry, but she would have these periods where she would just scream. She wasn't hungry because she just ate. She didn't need to be changed. Her whole body would get tight. She would extend her legs out, clench her fists, get red, and just scream. And it could be, 20 minutes, an hour, longer than an hour, and there's nothing you can really do to soothe her. And then, eventually she would calm down and she'd be fine. But this happens quite frequently. Now, it's more evident for us and more frequent for us at nighttime, especially between the hours of like 8 and midnight, which they say is normal. Babies are more colicky at night. She just does not do well at that time period. She'll have times during the day where she does that. She actually today was screaming her head off for about 40 minutes for no reason earlier in the day. But usually at night, you can almost guarantee it. The good thing is it's typically not in the middle of the night. Sometimes it is, which is really rough, but usually for us it's not. And it was tough, Brandon. I won't lie to you. So, having a colicky baby, nobody wants, that's kind of a dreaded word. But it is tough because, like I said, there's lots of periods of time when you feel helpless. Like there's nothing you can do, and you don't know if there's something serious wrong with the baby. And the part that scares me is her stomach always gets so tight, and she seems like she's in pain. And if you read about colic, no one really knows what makes it happen. A lot of people think it's something to do with the digestive system and how they process milk, and that they're upset. But you just want to help. So you give them gas drops, you give them gripe water, you massage their body, whatever you can do. And a lot of times it just, nothing works. You just kind of have to be there. But the real hard part too is also coping as a parent and making sure that you remain level-headed so that you don't, overreact at the baby. And that's been something that we've had to learn and to grow with. Does that make sense, Brandon?
Yeah, and truthfully, and I haven't dealt with this firsthand. It's kind of through you that I've seen this. And if people were paying attention to what you said and do any kind of research on colic, you literally just went through, probably unintentionally, but all the telltale signs that your baby has colic. There's a difference in the cry. There's a high pitched wail. You cry at the same time every day. I know you mentioned to me before, 9 o'clock, between 9 and
Every
midnight.
night.
It's every night.
She's
it's
never missed a night. Not one night since she's been born. Swear to God, she's never not missed one night.
We honestly should hire her at work, because if someone can show up at the same time every day, that's something that works out really well. And then like the posture is arched back, clenched fists, curled legs when crying, and tight stomach. Those are all, if you just Google colic and signs of colic, those are, he just went down a list unintentionally and telling us kind of a story of what's going on, of what's happening. So it's something that is unfortunate, and in your position, I can only empathize, because it's like, what can you do in that scenario? I know how I am after like 15 minutes, and I'm talking like 15 tops, and it is like the longest 15 minutes of your life. If you're dealing with this for hours, it's something that I guess not benefit. Well, actually, there is one thing that you frequently mention about, like a benefit potentially of kids that have colic, which I'll let you mention a little bit later, and how they might how they might progress later in life, or what it might mean for them later in life from like a mental aspect. But there is hopefully a light at the end of the tunnel, and that this doesn't last typically for longer than 4 months.
Yeah, and it's funny because people tell us all the time, especially people who've had colicky babies, oh, it gets better, just trust me. And it's funny because I know that
That's
it's
tough.
true, but I can't stand when people tell me that. Because
Sorry, Jerry, I basically just told you.
no,
that.
and it's fine, and I know they're just meaning well, but it's just funny because they all say that. But it's been like I said, pretty much since she was born. And again, it already has gotten better in the fact that, like I said, she's happier during the day. There's more interaction. There's a lot more positives and highs. But she still has the same screaming going on. Still gets just as upset. And also like in our scenario, we think that some of the colic might have to do with her weight gain, because it affects her sleeping, it affects her napping, and it could affect how much weight she's gaining. So that's a concern too. But as far as coping with it, it is something that's a work in progress. And what we've really found is that you have to know yourself and you have to know your partner. And I can always tell sometimes Macy's over it. And then you got to step in and you got to take her. And sometimes she can tell I'm over it. And she steps in and takes care of her. And it's crazy because sometimes, I can be at my wit's end and I give her to her and it could be 15 minutes later and she's not, and I'm good again. You just sometimes need to walk away and that's okay. So, having a partner is huge. Other things to do, like I said, try new things, new positions, walk with her, sing to her, pat her in the back, try the 5 S's. And then in worst case scenario, if you feel yourself getting upset, and let's say you don't have your partner there, or she's upset too, or he's upset too, put the baby down and walk away for 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes they say at this age, you don't want to leave a screaming baby for too long because it can have psychological problems, but almost every single doctor and every single study you read says that 5 to 10 minutes is not bad at all. It's leaving a baby for hours without consoling them. So again, sometimes leave them 5 to 10 minutes and walk away. I've actually found that sometimes if we leave Peyton for 5 to 10 minutes screaming her head off and then come back, it's easier to console her because it's almost like, okay, now there's someone that's actually here. I'll actually maybe calm down for a second. So that is key. But again, it's tough. I won't lie to you. And there's not much you can do as far as like making it go the time go quick or anything. It's just trying to stay calm in those moments and find any little ways to make it work. And then you got, like I said, you got to have your partners back because if you were a single parent, I don't know how you do it with the colicky baby. I'll be honest with you. I give you all the props in the world if you're at home dealing with that because it can get frustrating. There's no doubt.
It's not just colic, just all the things you have to do. And colic is the extreme. It's taking all the, but I mean, there are times where I wonder like, yo, could I do this if I was by myself and had to do this for three days in a row, or anything like that? It's like and that's just 3 days. That's not all day every day. Mm-hmm. So shout out to all the single parents who might be listening to this because I think we both probably didn't understand the task that it was to take care of a child and the real full-time commitment. We've mentioned this before with not single moms, but stay-at-home moms. But I mean, that's a completely different animal because you still got to be the breadwinner as well.
It is.
But I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's how do you soothe the colicky baby? It might not always work. In my research, the number one thing was find a way to distract them. So you mentioned singing, talking, trying to rock them to sleep, changing up the music, holding them upright is something that came up as well. Little things to try, and ultimately they may not work. You have to find what works for you in that moment, and today might be different than tomorrow. But hopefully for all, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. This is something that will normally end at about the 4-month mark, if you're lucky.
Well, it's funny too. Some babies hate tummy time, and Peyton usually doesn't like it. And sometimes I found if she's really screaming, I'm like, oh, we're just gonna do tummy time because you're already screaming anyways. So you might as well get like 2 birds with one stone. Perfect. So as crazy as it sounds, at least then you're getting some of that working out too. But as far as cries go, one thing I'll mention in kind of conclusion, Brandon, is people always said like, oh, you'll learn your baby's cries. And I thought it was weird early on because I'm like, the cry's a cry. But you kind of do, and there are different cries. You'll start to pick up on the fact that babies do have different sounds and different cries for I'm hungry, I want to be held, I'm bored, I'm poopy, or, Peyton's I'm in my colicky mode and going to scream my head off. I can tell right away, like, we're not going to soothe her because you just know. But I can also, which is nice, I can tell sometimes it's like, okay, something's going on because she's not doing her colicky thing. She's just crying. Like sometimes if you leave her, like if you put her in her swing and she doesn't want to be in there, she's got a specific cry for that, which is kind of funny. I can always tell. I'm like, really?
It's like learning a new language. Like legitimately, they depending on the pitch and the tone, instead of just different words, you are learning how your baby's communicating with you. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, but it's what we learn, and you're around that person every day. You figure out how they talk to you.
And they start learning
the only
like
way they can.
Coos and ahs and like kind of talk too, which almost like a cry. Sometimes they're like or something,
Well, the cool thing about Peyton too, I spent a little time with her on Sunday. I feel like at least me, I feel like obviously you can, you're a dad, but I can start to get some smiles and stuff like that out of her, or little smirks, which is great. That's like my favorite part of kids at this point.
Especially in the morning. She's like her dad. She's a morning kid. And she's super smiley in the morning, which is great and fun. But she does not like nighttime. So maybe that'll continue when she's older to make me happy. She'll just go to bed instead of wanting to go out at night.
Wow, you're already pushing this to 15, 16 years later.
Exactly.
Peyton's not a partier. She's just a studious student.
Kid going to go to the University of Michigan.
Let's get it.
All right, Brandon, hit me with the dad joke.
Oh, are you ready for this, Jerry?
I hope so.
I hope so too. It's crazy. Did you know that people don't believe grass be wet in the morning?
What'd it be?
It do.
I kind of like it.
It do.
It do. Speaking of which, it is wet out today because we went to take the dog and Peyton for a walk, and it was slushy and nasty, and I almost regretted it midway. Although she did good, not the dog.
Well, my backyard is basically a swamp.
Yeah.
Both of my neighbors' yards kind of they angled down into the very back of my backyard and makes everything really swampy. I think you quite literally have a marsh in your backyard.
I do.
So that is something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, right now weather like this, my backyard is completely not usable.
I like it.
Look for a for sale sign up in my yard. So
I like it. Well, Brandon, like today's episode, basically the big message is if your baby's crying out there, try to find different ways to soothe them. But, you're not alone, and it's okay. And different things work for different babies. And just because, like you said, your friends, your cousin, the person online could calm their baby doing something doesn't mean it's going to work for you. But that's why you try different things. That's why you don't give up. And not to be the guy that I can't stand, but it does get better, as they say. Or at least I hope it does.
Hey, it do, Jerry.
It do. We'll find out. But for everyone out there, we appreciate each and every one of you. Please like us on Facebook. Please like us on Instagram. Write a review. Tell your friends about us. And Brandon, I know you're drinking a Moscow Mule over there. I might join you with him in Manhattan.
It's gone, Jerry.
Manhattan or something, because it might be another long night for me. Macy goes back to days this week instead of nights, which is a good thing. But this could be another long week. We both work next weekend, so we'll see what the week holds. But until next time, I'm Jerry, joined here by Brandon, and you've been listening to Dad Jokes.